What's up, 10 Scale Squad, and welcome back to the Scale Drift Project. Project. It's done. Here it is. This is the Sakura D4 custom built with the Lexus RCF body from Killer Bodies on it. The lights are in, everything's wired up. The last time we just had a little bit of cable management to do, and yeah, this thing is ready to go drifting, and that is exactly what we're gonna do.
Guess I
Now, as I mentioned before, I wanted to keep this kind of somewhat budget spec, and I don't know that I did. Let's go over the cost breakdown if you wanted to replicate this for yourself. So first of all, we have the actual chassis itself. Now, I bought the kit with the motor, the ESC, the servo, pretty much a complete, almost ready to run chassis. That cost me $247. Then, of course, I bought this Killer Bodies Lexus RCF body. That was $100. The tires, the drift tires, were $13 hairs. The wheels were $15. The magnetic body mounts were $19. The light kit for the body was $15. The underbody LED lights, those were like $9. And then, of course, I had to buy the gyro, and that was another $34 hairs. That brings the grand total spent on this out of pocket to $443. But there are a couple things that I used that I just had laying around, like the receiver. I had that left over from another project, so that doesn't include the cost of a receiver. Obviously, the roll cage and the seats, I got those from KPOPRC. And there's a bunch of miscellaneous things in here, like obviously a little bit of wiring, glue, tape, and keep in mind that that doesn't include a battery or a transmitter. So if you don't have those things, if this is your first build, you're going to need to take that into consideration as well. But for me, my cost, $443. Not bad. But all of that is for absolutely nothing if it don't drift good. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. This is my first ever rear-wheel drive drift chassis. I've had plenty of four-wheel drive drift cars, and if you want to get into drifting, I cannot recommend starting there enough. Let's start out with the good things. The thing looks awesome. I mean, full carbon and aluminum for right around $450. It looks sick. It looks cool with the body on. It looks cool with the body off. But as far as performance goes, I'm not doing it justice, and there are a couple things that are an issue. Small tweaks. The suspension is really, really stiff, and the floor pan that K-pop printed, it like scuffs against the floor. It bottoms out in drift, which is no bueno.
Which is no fault to him.
Yeah, no fault
to him at all.
Again, this was not designed for this chassis. It was actually designed for the D5 chassis, but you know. The tires that I bought are actually just a little bit too sticky. So I threw these just cheapo Drift Johnnies on here, and it did improve the performance a little bit. But when the wheels are at full lock, it actually touches the shock and it locks up the wheel.
And it actually takes quite a bit to come off. I'm actually...
Yeah.
Watch this, actually. From where you're full lock and
yeah.
off.
So the gyro itself is actually like overextending the wheel into the shock and causing the front wheel to lock up. We can adjust that with endpoints, but, you know, we are taking angle out of it at that point.
Actually, with that being said, it might not even be rubbing now with the way that it's locking.
Yeah.
It's hard to say. Little tweaks.
Yeah, there's definitely some tweaking that we need to do. But overall, I really do like driving this thing. If you are coming from an all-wheel drive drift chassis to a two-wheel drive drift chassis...
Prepare.
It's a lot different. It's a lot different. This, you're really... It seems like with four-wheel drive chassis, you're steering a lot more with the throttle, whereas this, you're really making small little corrections and letting the gyro catch it, and you're almost like steering the back end. It's a lot different, so there's definitely a learning curve there.
In the all-wheel drive ones, I feel are a lot more high-speed oriented, to where they like to go fast to drift right, where these they're slow. We got to learn how to not go fast for once.
Right. And I did have a couple screws in the steering linkage come loose, and the thing was just driving unpredictably. But it was fun. $470 thereabouts. You would probably be better off with something like... Yeah, I mean, this is the chassis from MST. This comes completely ready to run, and it's about the same amount of money.
This is the RMX 2.0 RTR. I thought about going with the same thing you did with the nice carbon and stuff, but honestly, the chassis itself was almost $400, and I didn't want to go that hard.
Yeah, not for our first rear-wheel drive chassis. Like we've only got like 20 minutes combined seat time in these things, so we've got a long way to go. But it is fun. It's always fun to try something different and try something new and get out of your wheelhouse a little bit. And while you can go out and spend the same amount of money on something that's ready to run, it is pretty rewarding to actually build something yourself. To start out with just a box full of parts and start, just assemble it yourself, build it yourself, design it yourself, and then go out and drive it. That is really, really rewarding. So if you haven't done that, you definitely should.
And with that being said, we've visited the local hobby shop probably about 5 or 6 times with me eyeing this, just the chassis. They didn't have the RTRs when we were going, and the last time I decided to go, they got the RTRs in, and I bit the bullet. I decided just to do it and skip the building part.
Yep. Anyways, let me know what you guys think down below. Are you new into rear-wheel drive chassis? Are you new to drifting? Do you want to get into something like this? Are you just into building scale models? Let me know down below. A big, big, big thank you to KPOPRC for providing the cage and the seats and a bunch of other 3D printed goodies that he sent that I didn't even put in this chassis that we're going to save for something wicked. Speaking of which, if this is your first time checking out the channel, welcome. I'm glad you found it. We like to do RC shenanigans like this all the time. We've got some cool stuff coming up. You guys have been asking for one of these for a long time. You guys have been asking for one of these for a while. So we did the only logical thing you do, and we got one. So you're going to want to stick around for that. All right, guys, until next time.